Quite a quiet little scene, isn't it? Out here at the Fort Reno Cemetery, a very historic place for the state of Oklahoma. A lot of history in the ground right here. Some of the very people that helped make this state the great place it is are buried here. The gentleman that lies here, Ben Clark, pioneer, mule skinner, soldier, cavalry scout, guide. He's one of the people that helped blaze the trail and the ways into the West, the expansion of this nation. He wasn't a taker of lands. He was one of the people you read about in history books, long forgotten, except in places like this, places where some people still care about the people that actually made the history come alive. They have no voice now. He was quite a man. Born before the middle of the 19th century and lived to see the 20th century come to pass. He traveled all over the areas west of the Mississippi, and he was friend to Indian and white men alike. So much so that he was married not once, not twice, but 3 times to Indian women. This is the marker of his last wife, Mokay, who bore him 11 children, several of which are buried here with them in this cemetery at Fort Reno in El Reno, Oklahoma. They were a part of history. It's quiet out here right now, but in the background, with a condenser mic, you could hear the machinery. They're busy tearing down structures, historic structures and some not so historic. USDA won't share their plans with anybody, not in any informal way. But historical buildings have been lost. And there are others slated for destruction as we speak. And the best way to inculcate the young generations to the fact that history doesn't matter is to go out and destroy the things that stand the test of time and represent that history. One of the oldest buildings on this fort is Ben Clark's house. Before it was his house, it was several other things. It had been used as a church. It had been used as a schoolhouse. It had been used as a junior officers' quarters. It served many purposes from the late 1870s all the way up until the second decade of the 20th century. You can imagine the things that happened just in that building alone. The people's lives affected by what went on in that building alone. And that building is the oldest building on this fort, and it's slated for destruction. The powers that be in charge don't care about history. They care about the 21st century, scientific, agriculture, and they have a job to do, and I understand that. And although the buildings that they're tearing down may have very little significance to anyone that isn't a part of Historic Fort Reno, that doesn't enjoy or gain from history. You still got to wonder what's going to happen to this place. If they succeed in destroying Historic Fort Reno and the buildings that are there, and that portion of this installation goes away, this will be the only thing left so far that allows any public access to this fort. And if they restrict that, Route 66 that lies just about a mile south of us is going to lose another one of its many features, the few that remain intact, that people can actually come to and gain some historical knowledge about their origins, where they come from, what happened here to make this place the place it is. We shouldn't lose these treasures. All these markers, all these stones, all these people who came here, made life here, helped forge this nation and bring it about. USDA would have you forget them. USDA would have you not care about their efforts. As far as they're concerned, they've got better things to do. And there's much more to the history of this little cemetery on a hill. Not only are the pioneers and the waymakers, the shopkeepers, the storekeepers, the soldiers, the scouts, the interpreters, the people that were a part of the government that opened this place, but also there's more history to Fort Reno than meets the eye. We're on the east side of the west wall of a small section of the cemetery that is devoted to the interment of foreign nationals who were prisoners of war during World War II mainly. These people, these soldiers, were prisoners of war, held in the U.S., in different places across the U.S., and when they died, they were buried here. Not all these people passed away on this fort. They didn't. There's only one or two. I think just one. The rest of them were at other places, at other internment camps when they passed away, when they succumbed to disease or injury. But they're buried here at the fort. And every year, the people who came after them, members of their families, from all the way around the globe come to this place to pay homage and honor them in ceremonies. This place wasn't just about opening up the West. Fort Reno wasn't just about guarding the Chisholm Trail. It wasn't just the center of the star that gave support to Fort Townsend and Camp Supply and Wagoner and other places, and Fort Sill. It was also a place where brave men pass the remainder of eternity. What's going to happen with these? If no other part of this fort survives that has public access, this part, this cemetery, should remain unfettered, and public access should never be denied for any reason. Two lines of graves, 4 feet apart, that run the length of an entire wall. The ancestors of these people should never be prohibited from visiting. A lot of people can't give you their definition of what history really is. History is the remembrance and the honor of our forefathers and those that came to make it. History is about the lives of people. It certainly includes the deeds they accomplished. But when you boil it all down, those deeds would never have happened without the lives of those people. And they should always be honored and remembered.
Westward, they came as far west as this area before Fort Reno. So the history of this location goes much further back than the establishment of the military camp, which ultimately turned into Fort Reno in 1875. The main cattle drive came through this area, or I'm sorry, the wagons came through this area. As they crossed through here, this was nothing but Indians and teepees. How remarkable would that even be to see? So as they came through Indian territory, they dropped cattle off to the Native Americans in the area to assure safe travel through the area. The Low River crossing during that time, if you were to go to the commissary lawn and head straight north from the south end or the north end of the commissary, that's where the Low River crossing was, and that's why this is the Chisholm Trail corridor. So the history here at Fort Reno is much broader than just the military history.
That was 1840s?
1860s.
1860s.
Yep, roughly 1867. And so as I lecture, whether it's a group tour here or I go to a school or go to any location, I lecture of more than 150 years of history from this location alone. That's why it is so imperative that this remains the way that it is before we lose any more of it.
Oh, yeah.
But this piece truly adds to the mobilization of my museum.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
That's awful.
My uncle tamed horses here, trained them.
And what's his name?
Huh?
What's his name?
It was Miller, was Dally.
Dally Miller?
Yeah.
You can bet I'll be looking for that name in documents.
He trained horses here. Not thousands and thousands of horses went
Yes.
through this place.
Yes, there are on records that I have found in the archives up to 60,000 head of horses and mules
60,000.
at the height. Yep,
That's
in and out.
That's a lot of animals.
Oh, animals.
Yes, this is actually the veterinarian's quarters. It was the original structure was built in 1930 and it burned down in 1931 and they rebuilt this house here in 1936.
Mr. Miller, pleasure to meet you,
Pleasure
sir.
to meet
Thank
you.
you very
I'll
much.
shake your hand.
Thank you.
We're not concerned about the coroner.
I'm not gonna worry about it if you're not.
No, we're not concerned about it. I've been checked twice here in the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks. I had cataracts removed, and before each cataract removal, I had to be checked
Sure.
to make sure I wasn't.
Well, y'all stay safe and safe travels. You going back to Washington?
In about 2 weeks.
Okay.
I have a second granddaughter getting married in Edmond.
Congratulations. All right.
Yep.
Thank
We
you.
hope.
Understand. Willie, thank you.
This was
Thanks for
finished.
coming out.
He was 90 when he did this one. That's the reason.
Wow.
He didn't really remember how to put the corn on, but he remembered how to finish it.
And when did he pass away?
I'd have to get paperwork, I'll mail it to you.
Okay.
His
Yes.
dad died the year before my dad died, and they've been gone.
Yeah.
You'd think it was, you know,
Yeah.
5 years ago.
Enjoy it.
but
Okay. Have a nice day.
You too. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
You're a farrier.
Not a farrier. There's a difference between a blacksmith and a farrier.
Yes, sir.
A great difference. And you know, it really helps with frustrations more than people
I don't
really
know,
realize.
we call our horseshoers farriers.
The U.S. Army actually had the farrier and blacksmith jobs one and the same. And in the 1920s, I believe, is when they said this is really two different things.
I'll be darned.
Yep. And even like Forged in Fire, if you see on TV, and they show the blacksmithing, that's a whole different art in itself. Being a part of the Salt Fork Craftsmen for many, many years, my son, who started blacksmithing at 7, is now 17. But the Army recognized that it's two entirely different trades, as is knife making. A lot of knife makers, from watching things go on within the club, knife makers tend to be very, very good at crafting a knife. But some of the other things like bottle openers,
Oh, yeah.
hooks, those take a different type of skill. But knife making, farriership, and blacksmithing are all very different.
What we see on TV now, you know, the knife makers, was it fired, something
Yep.
fired,
Forged,
forged,
something,
fired.
yeah.
Anyway, and the horseshoers, all they do is do horseshoeing, furriers, 90%.
Well,
Yep.
you forge, so what do you make?
I make can openers, or not can openers, bottle openers. I have a chicken coop, and I've made S-hooks, fancy S-hooks to hang their feeders on and water deals on. I have made a knife, and I don't care to make another one. What else? Nails. I can make square nails.
You have a forge?
I have a coal forge at my house, and I also have a propane forge at the house.
Because we've got forges. We could have put one on the truck.
That's part of the grant, is to get a forge to travel with that as well, to go with our mobilization of our museum, to take a blacksmith along with our chuck wagon. That is our big
We sold the
project.
one that we would want, because it was only about that big around.
I have to have an anvil. I got my tools. I can always take my tools.
Yeah.
But to have a forge and an anvil that I can throw in a trailer with my chuck wagon and
You
this.
don't throw them, you haul.
Yes, you can't throw them anywhere.
You haul them, yeah, no doubt.
But I keep metal at my house in my garage specifically for moments where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go out and forge today. It's a little hot to be forging though, but yes, on occasion when I have group tours or things going on here, I typically have a blacksmith that will sit out here and do demonstrations.
Good.
Neat.
If any place on this fort cries for preservation, it's this place. Civilians, businessmen, explorers, scouts, soldiers, waymakers, people responsible for the westward movement and the expansion of this nation. A lot of people in this place gave their lives just getting here. And a lot of people who spent a lifetime here and are still here. They deserve our honor. They deserve our respect. They deserve our vigilance. If I'm not mistaken, that's an American flag on that post. And it stands for freedom. It will never cease to stand for freedom. Even though this particular iteration of it is somewhat ragged on the ends. This place is in danger. We shouldn't allow that to happen.